All right. Welcome to PHLY Sixer Show, brought to you by Rothman Orthopedics. You know, we have spent a lot of time. It seems like there is so much over the last decade. Your interest in the team, your excitement for the team is based around the health and availability of Joel Embiid. And clearly, if they are going to be a championship contender this year, you need Joel Embiid healthy, at least Joel Embiid healthy during the right time of the season. But even irrespective of that, I think there's a lot of excitement and a lot of hope for the future because of what the Sixers have been able to do with their backcourt over the last couple of years. Obviously, it started a couple of years back. What was that, 2020, I think? Yeah, it was like a
Tyrese
month
Maxey?
after Daryl Morey joined the team.
November 2020.
Yeah,
That was
really
the
weird draft time.
delayed off season.
And then
a little thing called COVID.
Yeah, and then it continued with a couple of low probability events. First, hitting a really good, we won't call it a home run yet. He has to play more than 23 games before we do that. But a really good hit with a 16th pick in the draft where you really don't expect much value. And then keeping the top 6 protected pick here this past year to get VJ Edgecombe. So I think there's a lot of excitement around the team, like I said, even irrespective of the health of Joel Embiid. But the question is, can they, it's one thing to be excited. Can they be the basis, form the nucleus of the next championship contender if, and I'm not saying Embiid can't turn it around, but if Joel Embiid is not able to get back to his MVP level form. And I will be talking about that today with my co-host here, Rich Hoffman, on the PHLY Sixer Show, brought to you by Rothman Orthopedics. How you doing, Rich?
Derek, I'm doing fine. I think this will be a little bit more of an upbeat topic, even though the prompt is a little negative. Because I do think there is some positivity with this team, like you said, irrespective of whether Joel is healthy or not. But we got to get to the big news of the day first. It's on my mind. We got to bring it up. Apparently, the black uniforms are back, baby.
They are. They are. All right. Well, I guess we will get right into that. That is a lot of times Devon likes to save the news and notes for the end, but Rich is very, very excited. And I know Kyle and I have...
That's given style. This is a Hoffman style.
This is a Hoffman pod. You know, I think Kyle and I have kind of pushed back a tiny bit on these jerseys, that the design might be a little bit dated, but Allen Iverson could make anything look cool.
I agree.
But I will acknowledge that there is probably no more powerful drug in this world than nostalgia.
Absolutely.
I say that as someone who's probably going to go home and play my Switch 2 later tonight. So I think these jerseys hold a special place in the heart for a lot of fans, not only because of Allen Iverson and the excitement that he brought to the franchise, but also because of that run, obviously, in 2001. So do we have, who reported that? I think it was Evan Sidery that initially reported.
I think it was Evan Sidery, who, in fairness, is often like kind of an aggregator type account, but I think he had the news first. I believe our buddy Austin Krell also, he confirmed it. Kyle's on vacation, so he's not doing this for us. But this had been something that had been rumored for a few years. So let's just go with it and believe it. Austin getting the confirmation, I think, is enough for what we need. So you play the Switch for nostalgia. I was a big N64 guy.
Okay, yeah. I was a big every Nintendo console. Up until about the GameCube. The GameCube is when they started losing me a little bit. But yeah, I have a Switch. I'll play a little bit. It's a lot of times for like family type events. It's great for. But yeah, I have a bit of a nostalgia kick for sure.
What's your favorite game?
Ever?
Yeah.
I think the one that probably blew me away was probably Zelda 64, Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time. I agree with you that was the best game.
Because I feel like because I'm a little older than you. But I spent a lot of time going like, man, imagine if this was like a real world that you could explore when you're playing like the 2D platformers. And Mario 64, but especially Ocarina of Time, where it's just, that felt like a fully realized world for the first time in my gaming experience.
And you mentioned the family element. If you are playing against somebody, if you're kind of just more looking to have fun, the two that I would mention are Mario Kart and GoldenEye. Are the two that we'd play that in college all the time. Had so much fun with that.
I always approach Mario Kart in the wrong way. I will, it's clearly not a realistic racing sim, but I will always pick one track that I go to time trials and try to get like the perfect lap. And
what track?
I haven't played the new one enough yet. I'm not sure.
I had a weird thing, and I know we're getting off topic, but hey, it's August. Who cares? I was unbelievable at Bowser's Castle, which is kind of that's not a fun one. Other people would rather play in Mario Stadium, on Koopa Troopa Beach, some of these other places. No. Send me to Bowser's Castle, and I am 150% better at that level than compared to the rest of the levels where I'm a very average player. Okay, you're right. Nostalgia is an important. It's a drug, man, and I'm getting excited talking about N64 here. Like you said, the just seeing Allen Iverson in that jersey. I mean, he was the coolest guy going. Although those blue ones were pretty nasty.
Yeah.
They weren't very good.
No.
But yeah, Allen Iverson is the guy. So I mentioned this in my newsletter today. So who is the first non-Iverson or Mutombo player that when I say those Sixers black jerseys that pops into your head?
Honestly, probably Theo for some reason.
Yeah?
I don't know why. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't. It should probably be like Snow or McKee, I feel like.
No. I actually asked a few of my friends that question. I got a couple of Theo Ratliffs as well. So I kind of go more into the mid-aughts, actually. So I made a little bit of a joke in the newsletter today, and I said Matt Harpring and Kenny Thomas, and they do pop into my head. But the guy from that era who really pops into my head for some reason is Kyle Korver.
Okay.
Just Kyle Korver with the remember,
and he was obviously after the 01 run. He was like what, drafted 04?
Yeah,
somewhere around there, somewhere in that range. Yeah.
Do you remember he had the cutoff sleeves too? I don't know. For some reason, the cutoff black sleeves, the high black socks on Kyle Korver. I feel like there was a time too. This is like the real sickos probably only remember this, and even the ones that are listening to us now, they might not even remember. There was a time after the 01 finals run where I think Iverson got the entire team to wear headbands.
Right.
And Matt Harpring and Kyle Korver were wearing headbands, which was pretty funny. Anyway, yeah, those black jerseys, they're back. I think the good news for the Sixers, if you're part of the marketing team, it's not like you have to make much of a new design, right? They always create these new jerseys, and sometimes it feels like they're running out of ideas. I'm sure they'll put their own touch on these, but these, bringing these jerseys back, you have a pretty set template to go from.
Yep. No, I mean it is, yeah. And look, like you mentioned, especially when you start talking about like the city jerseys, it's tough to come up with like a unique jersey every year that's good. It's why I don't really love the concept of it. I get you got to sell units, and changing it this frequently helps you sell jerseys and whatnot.
Sell product.
But yeah, I'm not in love with the concept. But I think this is one way where like, yeah, I think a lot of fans have been dying for this for a long time. Who is it that had basically like the rule of like, no, we're not bringing these back? Was that Chris Heck? I thought Chris Heck was passionately opposed to bringing these back.
He might have been, man. We've dealt with so many characters and so many twists and turns, like with the actual basketball with this franchise, that I got to be honest, man. I don't have that in the back of my head.
I think it was Chris Heck. I'd have to go back and double check, but there was definitely a couple of years where it's like everyone wants this. We all agree it should happen. Even people like us or myself. I don't speak for you or Kyle, although Kyle's brought it up, who might not necessarily think that the design ages perfectly, because I think it's very late 90s, early 2000s design. Even us can be like, no, bring this back, you nitwits. Like, this is something that people really, really want. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It does seem like people want that. Gene mentions that they also need to bring back the 92 jerseys. I assume that's the red ones that have the basketball on the side. Yep. Yeah, with Charles. Yeah. I think of Charles with those. I think of even the ones in the mid-90s when Allen was first starting, like the Stackhouse Iverson ones. I like those too. Why not bring those back if you want to get all nostalgic on us? Anyway.
No, I'm looking forward to it. It's nice that, like I said, it feels like, and Tyrese sort of like hinted at this a little while ago. Like, I think he kind of leaked this a while back. So we have been expecting this, but it is nice that it is finally here for sure. All right. You want to debate current players, or do you want to keep going back into the past?
No, I think we can do current players.
Okay. So clearly, like I said, the topic of the show is like, we're all excited for this new core of Maxey, McCain, and Edgecombe. Can it be like, can you actually get to the point where you are forming the basis of a championship core with that trio if Joel Embiid doesn't return back to form? And, how do that kind of measure up against other contenders in the East, or at least other rivals in the East over the next couple of years? I think clearly, like, if Joel Embiid isn't playing in the playoffs, we don't believe that they're championship ready now, right? We're not going to go that crazy.
We don't?
I do not. I'm just making sure you don't either.
I don't. But, and I think this is important because I wonder what people in the chat actually, if they would agree with me on this. I got to say, just as an observer of the team, man, I feel like last year made me a little more zen about the whole Joel thing. And that is because this team last year, largely because of injury, but a whole bunch of stuff went wrong. They failed so dramatically last year that my emotional state as a follower of the team is now not dependent on Joel Embiid being healthy. And I'm not framing it as a championship or bust team anymore because the bar has been lowered and the expectations have been lowered. So, of course, if Joel Embiid is healthy, that matters a ton, and I would love to see it. And if they actually want to win a ton of games, like you just mentioned next year, it's got to be healthy.
Yeah.
It's got to be healthy. He's still that important. I don't think that's a controversial statement to say that adding a guy who 20 months ago was the reigning MVP and was well on his way to going back-to-back with MVPs, if you add even 80%, 90% of that guy to the lineup, yeah, the team is going to be a lot better. But I view Joel playing and playing at that level as sort of a bonus at this point. And if it does not happen, look, the Sixers are going to have some major issues. Both they're going to have some issues on the court next year that we'll get into, but they're also going to have issues trying to move his contract and, trying to figure out what the financial picture of this team is in the future. But I do not need Joel Embiid in the lineup next year to get satisfaction from watching this team, and that is because of all of these young guys. Now, look, if some of these young guys start to get hurt, okay, then the satisfaction level will go down.
Do not even put that into the world, Rich. What are you doing?
I'm sorry. I'm look, the TLDR of this is I've already been hurt far too much. You can't hurt me anymore. And guys, look, I do want to emphasize this. I am rooting so hard for Joel Embiid to get back on the floor. Number one, because I like the person a lot, even if he has had some flaws. Again, he is human. I think as we
if
saw,
you had to be perfect to like someone, there wouldn't be anyone in the world to like.
I think we can admit,
except for you, of course.
Yeah,
and Devon. We'll throw Devon in.
Of course, I'm perfect. Yeah. No, I'm not perfect. But I obviously like the person a lot, and the basketball player is majestic to watch when he's good. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. But the Sixers have other stuff that can bring me a lot of enjoyment, and even that can even come if they are, a middling to even below average team. There are things to be excited about for the future, and maybe even in the present as well.
Yeah, no, it really is an important point, and maybe something to bring up before we get to the contention part in the second part. But so much of our we have been in a championship or bust mentality for so long that it can get a little bit draining if we're being honest. And part of what was so fun about the early parts of the Joel Embiid era was that those expectations weren't there. Now, it's different back then because you had a player in Embiid who was so clearly, it was way easier to project that he was going to be a franchise cornerstone. The moment he stepped foot on the floor, I would argue the moment he was at Kansas, but even if you weren't necessarily paying attention, the moment he stepped foot on the floor, I think was it OKC he played in his first preseason game, and you went oh, no, this is very legitimate, and it's going to be very legitimate very quickly.
I think his first preseason game was
Boston and he made Al Horford look like he was tiny.
And the first real game was OKC, which was a very competitive
against
game.
Steven Adams, and it's he can do this against legitimate NBA centers. This is wild.
Yeah, that was also the game where the guy in the front row was yelling at Westbrook, and Westbrook, the all-time meme of him pointing really?
Yeah. I'm actually, I think you're probably there too. We are both sitting there. You can see us in press row right behind the guy giving him the double birds.
You were smiling, and they just caught you smiling. You didn't actually know what was going on, but it looked like you were smiling at the guy giving the double bird.
I really wanted to make that my profile picture on so many different things, but I thought it was probably not wise to put someone flipping a double bird as a representation of me. But yeah, no, he made an immediate impact, and it was very easy to project oh, this guy's going to be different. This guy is worth building around. We can make something work out of this. And he elevated the team very quickly. Remember, even in that rookie year, I think they'd won 11 of the last 14 games before he got injured. There were some people, it was a little premature, but some people even talking about a potential playoff berth before he went down. It would have been a long shot, but he was turning them into a real basketball team after being dysfunctional for so long, almost single-handedly. The other big signings that year were Sergio Rodriguez and Gerald Henderson and slop, pretty much slop.
Those were the guys who he was dragging to 10 win. I think it was a 10-win January in January 2017. And you're right. people got a little bit ahead of themselves because they had already dug themselves quite a hole in terms of playoff positioning. But yeah, it was you could see that he was a very legit cornerstone piece, and it was an exciting. Even if the Sixers and they closed that season with Joel out, that I think that was the year he tore his meniscus, right?
Yes.
Against
landed Houston, I think.
Well, he came back against Houston. I think it might have been Portland.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And so they lost a bunch of games at the end of the year, but it was an exciting time to be a Sixers fan because you knew they had all these picks. They have a couple young players. Ben Simmons is just chilling on the bench because, as you called it yesterday, it's a rite of passage for a guy to have to sit out for a year. It's funny, man. At the Ospreys last night, I was talking to a few of our diehard. What an event. Zach. Anyway, I was talking to a couple people who have listened to us for a long time, and they talked about what an exciting time it was around 2017 when you just had all of the hope. Even 2016, just there was a ton of hope with Joel Embiid and all of the things that the Sixers had going for them, but really there weren't a ton of wins at that point. And I kind of wonder if this season it might be that type of year, just with Joel being hurt. Like it's a little harder to process when you have Joel Embiid and Paul George both on max contracts on the team and being a little bit depressing. But if you kind of look past that and if they're hurt, I think there could be a lot of excitement for this group, not in terms of the picks, but the players on the court, their ability to gel and move forward. I think there could be, if this is around a 500 team and those guys are leading you to it, and those guys meaning Edgecombe, Maxey, McCain, Grimes, if he comes back as well, I think the fan base could get a lot of excitement, and there could be a legitimate jolt from those guys.
Yeah. No, and that first part, just being excited again, so great. After last year, when it felt like after mid-November, the air was just completely sucked out of the team, I think there is a lot to be hopeful for. So I guess we'll, it is something where. So what's the number one thing you're looking for this year out of that trio?
What trio?
What's a trio of Maxey, McCain, and Edgecombe? What's the number one thing that you're looking at and saying, like, well, this I'm going to take from this and project forward?
I think just generally how they coexist. I want to see all of the combos.
Right.
I want to see, I wrote them all down. I want to see the all shooting backcourt of Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, which, by the way, I'm not sure that's going to be your long-term backcourt. It's pretty small defensively. If we get, into like, are they contender? Is this a championship level team?
It's not pretty small. I think you're being generous there. It's really small. Even though they don't like. Do you remember when Tyrese kind of went off on Keith when he called them a small backcourt? It's like small compared to what?
The NBA.
Yeah, the NBA. Unfortunately.
Yes, you are bigger than us. Yes, I agree with that, Tyrese. But yeah, I want to see them play together, and that's part of being freed from expectations, right? Where when you're just in experiment mode. Let's see those guys shoot. So one thing I'd like to see with Tyrese this year, I think he is so good when he gets off the ball, and that's in multiple ways. When he's just a catch and shoot guy, that's a deadly shot. But also when you get him in the dribble handoff game as well, finding a way to get him off the ball and then get the ball back to him. Now, normally the way they would do that over the past few years is the DHO game with Joel. So if Joel is not in there, finding a way with these other guards who are very good with the ball in their hands and certainly can bring the ball up and initiate a little bit of offense, but finding a way to diversify Tyrese's offense.
And Trendon Watford. If you don't mention Trendon Watford's ability to initiate, then Headville will come after you.
Well, I think Headville like this. I think Trendon Watford becomes he almost becomes a more interesting player if Joel is out, right?
Yeah.
Because then you put the ball in his hands a little bit more.
Because if Joel's there, like he's standing in the corner, and that's not his game at all.
And you could push the ball. The grab and go game, I think, would also be there as well. Yeah. I mean, it could be Trendon Watford as well too. I think that's an excellent point.
I mean, I'm not even necessarily saying you're wrong. I just wanted to make sure Hedva knew that we acknowledged Trendon Watford's existence.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I guess I was a little too laser focused on just the guards because you mentioned what are you looking.
I haven't even seen Hedva in the chat yet, but still, you just got to cover all your bases. Just
absolutely.
In case. Yeah.
All right, you want to shelve this for a little bit and hear from a couple of our friends?
Yep.
Okay, we'll be back. And guys, first, let's talk about That looks like our presenting sponsor today, Rothman Orthopedics. And guys, let's talk about getting back to what you love, especially in the summer. Whether you're biking by the Schuylkill or the Delaware, I don't know where you live in Philadelphia, chasing your kids through the sprinkler, or finally tackling that hiking trail like my guy to my right always does, it's tough when your body does not cooperate. And that's where Rothman Orthopedics comes in. From aches after a pickup game, I know about those, to old injuries flaring up on summer adventures, Rothman's team of experts is here to help. With evidence-based care and a commitment to restoring your mobility, they'll get you back out there stronger than ever. So guys, don't let pain put your summer on pause. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to book your appointment today and get back to doing what you love pain-free. Rothman Orthopedics, getting you back to your summer game is their mission.
We also want to make sure we tell you about Ace Hardware Home Services, because this is the panel that absolutely cannot handle home repairs on their own. So I shouldn't speak for you. Certainly for myself, cannot handle those home repairs. So you need to get all the help that you need. If you've got an outlet you said you would fix last summer at Ace Hardware Home Services, they've got the person to fix that. Because now they're not just the helpful hardware folks, they're also the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing and electrical to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. Ace Hardware Home Services. They bring the helpful home, the helpful you love, from the store now to your front door, from Philly to the Jersey Shore. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project. We also want to tell you about the big deal. The big deal is presented by Cherry Hill Jeep. I know people buy Jeeps elsewhere. I just don't know why. Drive home in your new Jeep or Mitsubishi today, just minutes from Alt Bridges, or available online 24/7 at cherryhilljeep.com. And today's big deal is what we opened the show talking about, the return of the 2001 Allen Iverson era Sixers jerseys. I think we might have an image. If you are, maybe a little on the younger side, maybe you don't have the nostalgia that the old people like Rich and I have built into our systems. These are what they look like. Again, Iverson and his natural charisma enhances the look of that tenfold. If we gave you a picture, there's a reason that Evan, when he was promoting his tweet, didn't include Matt Geiger in that image. Would have been a different sales pitch, I think. But so many people have so much nostalgia tied to that jersey. It was one of the true, it's the only time they made it out of the conference semifinals in 40 years. When was the last time of the Dr. J era that they made it out? 80, almost 40 years, regardless.
85, 86.
Okay.
One of the Charles rookie year, I think they made the conference finals and lost. Also, that NBA Finals decal on that jersey also helps. Shout out to Ethan, by the way, who's handling us this week with super producer Bree on vacation in parts unknown somewhere, and getting some shady rays with Kyle and Devon also. So Ethan's doing a great job.
All at sunny locations, those sons of. Very jealous. Very, very. I'll have a vacation next week, so I won't be jealous for too long, but I'm jealous right now. But yeah, the big deal is obviously, how could it not be? We've been waiting for this jersey for so long. When it's finally here, that is always going to be our big deal, and I'm very excited about that return. Once again, the big deal brought to you by Cherry Hill Jeep. No people buy Jeeps elsewhere. Just don't know why. Just minutes from all bridges are available online at 24/7 at cherryhilljeep.com. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Sixers show, brought to you by Rothman Orthopedics. Yeah, watching the ability to get all three of them off ball is, I think, huge, and their ability to play off of each other. I think they all have the skill sets to do it. Like we've talked about, VJ, he's more comfortable shooting off the catch than he is off the dribble by a long shot. And I think even at Baylor, he showed some movement ability, like not just standing there with his feet set, but also ability to run off of screens and come and get the ball and shoot. And obviously McCain is borderline elite already at relocating and getting open. And Maxey, we've seen multiple years of evidence where he is better as a catch and shoot guy, ability to run and get himself open. So I think all that's going to be interesting. You do have to learn, get some reps in to really learn where guys like their spots, how they want the ball delivered. And especially since all three of them aren't necessarily pure point guards by trade, there will be some of a learning curve, but I don't really have much concern about them figuring it out offensively. There's some concern over whether or not, if I have any real concern, is there a true elite passer among that group? But if you don't have that true elite passer, having 3 guys who can attack like they can, I think is one way to mitigate that.
One way to mitigate it is to have 3 guys playing super fast and 3 guys who can really shoot the ball
Yeah.
too. We'll see. We'll see about VJ. He needs to prove a little bit
It's
more.
a little bit like Boston Celtics, right? Where none of them are necessarily elite passers, but they're all good enough attacking off the dribble. They're all good enough off ball. They're all good enough as shooters where you just limit the decision making so it's more manageable.
Well, and they also,
But they're not 6'8" and can rise up
and
like
have
that.
legit 5-out spacing too.
Yeah.
The other element of that was Porzingis dragging people away, although he didn't play a ton this year. But Horford also functioned as that stretch 5 for them. You're absolutely right. Those guys are not elite passers, but they were so good with the ball in their hands, and the spacing was so pristine that it was kind of easy to pass the ball, honestly, because So can the Sixers find that 5-out lineup? By the way, that was something I had a little bit further down the list. Last year they did play 5-out a decent bit in the middle of the year. So Tyrese Maxey, very odd year for him last year, because at the beginning he was struggling a little bit with his just with his overall play. In fairness, Joel and PG really weren't there for him, and he was the one who had to shoulder the load, and he struggled a little bit shooting, I would say, for the first few months of the year. And then at the end of the year, he couldn't make a shot, but that was because his hand was busted, and he was continuing to play through that until they eventually shut him down. Tyrese Maxey, though, there was a 25-game stretch in the middle of the season where he played the single best basketball of his career. And I have the numbers right here. 25 games of 30.5 points per game, 30.5 and 7.2 assists per game on 48, 36, 91 splits. That is 61% true shooting. That was the best basketball of Tyrese Maxey's career. Now, part of the reason I'm not skeptical, but I do think you need to mention the context is that Gershon Yabusele was the center for a lot of those games. And Tyrese Maxey had that 5-out spacing that we talked about, where Yabu was clearly a very good stretch 5. He had the ability to pick and pop. He had the ability to attack a closeout. And he and Tyrese worked really well together. I will also say Tyrese did a nice job with young Mr. Bona as well during that stretch. Like, they found some chemistry in the pick and roll. Tyrese found a way to throw him some lobs as well. They had that 5-out spacing. The big issue for these guys, as we mentioned, they're all guards, is that Yabusele lineup could not get a stop to save their lives. So, finding a balance where you have 3 guys who had stretches last year. So Jared McCain at the beginning of the season, 23 games of 15 points per game and 2.6 assists per game on 59% true shooting. And by the way, there is a more impressive stretch on that. That is his entire season. Very impressive. As we talked about, Tyrese had that great stretch in the middle of the year. And then Quentin Grimes, man, he was averaging 24 points a game on 64% true shooting for a lot of the season. So you have 3 guys plus VJ Edgecombe, who I think we're all excited about, especially after Summer League, who thrived at different points of the year, not always playing with each other. Now, how do you get the most out of all 3 of those, or all 4 of those guys when they are playing together? And that's the big question for Nick Nurse.
Yeah, it really is. And also, like, again, I have very high confidence in them offensively. It doesn't mean any of their numbers are going to necessarily be great, because when you have 4 to 5 really good offensive options in, Maxey, McCain, Grimes is a pretty good option, although I think he's going to have his touches reduced, which is probably why you want to lock in that contract now if you can. Not that I give free advice, but here we are. Paul George and Joel Embiid, like, that's just a lot of people who are going to end up shooting the basketball. But when they're on the floor, and really I think what's great about them is any combination of them, I think, work well together offensively. Like, I can see Jared playing off ball while VJ tries to create and grow as a creator. I can see either Maxey or McCain playing off ball, and you can kind of play the pick your bozo kind of basketball. Neither of them necessarily great at forcing rotations like you would typically want in number 1, but I think all of them
pick your bozo type of basketball.
I'm pretty sure I don't know if you coined that, but you certainly said that a lot about the Celtics.
Well, I said they like to matchup hunt.
Yeah.
Pick your bozo is great. Yeah. I love that.
Well, there's always one defensive bozo on the court, and if you have 5 guys who can create advantages, and that's great.
We can't curse, but if anybody's seen the American film classic, the Waterboy,
right?
When the guy is doing the onside kick and he's pointing at that's my what. Yeah. So that's basically what the Sixers would be trying to emulate with the Celtics. Go ahead.
But I really do think like all of them can find ways to play on and off ball and find ways to be successful around each other. And I think someone like Paul George has pretty much said like, hey, VJ, we're not going to ask you to come in here and play a diminished role. Like, we don't want you to change who you are. We want to make you a better version of yourself. And I think you've got vets like that who are going to empower a lot of these young players. I'm really excited. I do think,
I just think offensively it's going to be fun.
It's going to be real fun, I think. And you almost you've got two of the fastest guys in the league with the ball in your hands. You can't play as slow as you have in previous years. And I've always said there's a difference between, playing like hunting transition opportunities and pace. Because once the game slows down, then yes, you're going to want to get the ball to your 7-foot center, who's probably taking a little bit of time getting down the floor, needs a little time to set up, but you can still hunt transition opportunities before then. It's just what happens when you reset. So a lot of times pace can be a little misleading. Like you can generate, and this is why I like some of the cleaning glass numbers, you can generate transition opportunities and still play at a relatively low pace. I hope they really hunt those transition opportunities this year, because when you have guys as fast as Maxey and McCain, and VJ obviously, and McCain's such an incredible, he hunts transition threes incredibly well. Like that was
VJ?
something. McCain.
Oh,
I might
McCain.
have gotten my names mixed up.
McCain is unbelievable at that.
He was unbelievable at that at Duke. He was unbelievable last year in the limited sample. And if you've got guys like Maxey and VJ pushing in transition, generating steals, and Paul George generating steals too, he's still an elite, event creator on defense. I think they should be able to get out and run. And I think they need to in order to make the most of it, because I think that is, you can play off their skill sets very well.
So much of modern basketball is pace and space. And like you said, it's not just transition in terms of throwing the ball ahead and getting a layup right away. It's getting in transition so you force those mismatches.
Yeah.
You force confusion. And then, and Rick Carlisle has been great talking about this, it's also about playing fast when you're in the half court. It's getting ball and player movement. Like, I think McCain is the perfect example of a guy who can thrive in that system. Yeah, maybe you might get matched up with him in transition, and maybe you might take away that initial three-pointer that he wants to hunt. He's not going to stop, though. He's not going to stop. He's going to, he's going to take the flare screen and then get into a dribble handoff and try to create a bunch of havoc. The Sixers, over the last year, even when Joel was good, I'm thinking about it now. When James Harden and Joel Embiid were at their best in 22, 23, they had the best offense in the league at that point.
Yep.
But it wasn't that type of offense. It was pretty slow, station to station. We're getting into our spread pick and roll, and those two guys are just so good. James is playmaking, Joel scoring, and we're going to put three shooters around them, and we're going to score a bunch of points. I think the way the NBA is moving now, though, it's a much more random type of attack. And that's what you would hope that these guys can play. Now, I had pace in my notes, and I did have Trendon Watford as a guy who, yeah, man, if he gets a rebound, then go push it. And I think he could be an excellent fit with those guards. The one guy I didn't have as an excellent fit is, hey, man, if Joel is not healthy, Paul George, limber up, man. Like you got to be able to run up and down the court. That's the one fit. I'm sure Paul George, who has played in the NBA for forever, since the Eisenhower administration at this point, he needs to, needs to be able to play with that type of, with that pace, because he's capable of it. He's still a very good athlete at his age.
As someone older than Paul George, I object to how you phrase that. I object strenuously to how you
Look,
phrase
he's
that.
athlete old, man. He's not actually old. He's athlete old.
No, I got you. And look, we've picked fun at Kyle Lowry too. So I guess
again,
what's fair is fair.
He's got his whole life ahead of him. Yep. But for an athlete, ancient.
Yeah, it is. Offensively, there's just so much to work with. And look, at the end of the day, like, you can have three pieces that fit. You need somebody who's an elite advantage creator, and that is where I think the biggest, is there championship equity among this core? If on the offensive side, because defensively, I think is something we have to get into in the next block. On the offensive side, the biggest question is there just that one singular player who can just absolutely terrorize a defense and force rotations and make everyone's job easier? Obviously, Maxey is the closest to that. I think we've seen over the years that he really could. Now, that stretch in December and January was truly elite. And I think was the first signs of growth he showed last year towards achieving that. Unfortunately, it was followed up by the fact that he couldn't grip the ball for a couple of weeks while they still played him, trying to salvage their playoff hopes, and shot like absolute garbage after that point. But it is one where, like, over time, we've seen Tyrese is just better when he has somebody who has the kind of gravity to create space for him, like Embiid. And can he grow into
Harden
being
to an extent too.
and Harden too? Well, Harden, especially because he was giving him off-ball opportunities that he just didn't have last year. Can he really be an elite sort of like on-ball scorer and three-level scorer without that as the focal point? I think we still need to see. And more specifically, like, can he be a good enough passer to take advantage of the attention he receives? I'd love to see more growth in there. But if you are talking about offensive concerns about this being a championship level trio, I think that's where you start.
So I think he did show a lot of improvement when he had that pristine 5-out spacing. Now, in fairness,
It's just very tough to get that spacing while also having a defense that you can hang with.
it's difficult. There's a reason the Celtics were pretty good the last few years. There's a reason they had a pretty unique style of play, even if it wasn't like all that creative, frankly.
We will be talking about some of that style of play tomorrow in tomorrow's show as a teaser.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about some larger NBA trends tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, it's what you said earlier, where when you have that pristine spacing and you have 3-point outlets from a lot of places, like Tyrese does turn into a better passer.
Yeah.
It's when the space gets a little more confined, which, in fairness, like at the beginning of last season when they had Caleb Martin, who was taking 8 steps to shoot a 3-point shot, when they had Kelly Oubre, who just does not shoot threes at a high level.
8 steps to take the shot, by the way, with his foot on the line. He used to drive me
Well, that
nuts
was one of the
with
steps.
that.
That was the 4th step.
Take 7 step next time, please.
That was the 4th step. Anyway, he had the opposite of pristine spacing at the beginning of last year. So can he get better if you split the difference a little bit and give him more normal NBA spacing? I think he might be able to. But yeah, with these guards and with the ability to play fast, if the Sixers actually commit to that, then I think the passing lanes get a little bit easier for Tyrese Maxey. I also think with Paul George too, if he's able to keep up with these young guys, I think he would have abilities. A lot of his offense, when he was playing pretty well last year, they had the play where they would throw him the ball on sort of the left wing. It was essentially a post up. Get that out of the playbook, man. Like just start attacking, like faster decision making, and hopefully we would see that. I do think if they play some of these young guys, PG is obviously a huge deal because he offers you size, defense, and actual 3-point shooting as well.
No, you need, if you're going to build around this trio, you need an apex type wing to complement them, or a big man like Joel. But as we know, they're hard to find.
And if you don't have both, okay, fine. You're not going to be a championship contender. But Paul George could really help facilitate these guys' growth.
Yeah,
that's all.
I do agree with you though. Like, I know Devon is all about the lobs, and he's going to want a big man who can be a roll threat. I think having a 5-out for this group is way more important. Like, and look, having a roll threat would be great too, because that really does open up. Like, there's gravity involved with that as well. But I think Tyrese, to your point, especially with what Tyrese showed last year with Gershon, who again they couldn't defend anyone at that point. But offensively, I just think that made the world all that easier for him. And I think the blueprint of the Celtics. Now, the Celtics are hard to replicate, and they would have been hard to keep around because they would have gotten really expensive, even if Tatum didn't get that injury. I think they were still going to end up having to blow a lot of it up. It's hard to find someone like Kristaps Porzingis. It's hard to find someone even like Al Horford, especially from a couple of years ago, who can credibly shoot like that and also hold their own defensively like they can. But I think that's what you got to prioritize.
And I think that is a good teaser for our final segment, in which I'm going to ask you about 2 things: the center position and what the heck they're going to do on defense.
Yeah. Before that, let's talk to the last remaining bit of our friends. All right, guys. Just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who are focused on flooring every single day. Because we've all been to some of those big box stores, and while they might have a flooring department, the person that's actually helping you with the flooring may have been doing sinks yesterday and could be stocking light bulbs tomorrow. That's just not complementary skill sets. Like, you might know about sinks. That doesn't mean I trust you with my floors.
I don't know about
But
sinks.
Empire, I have nothing about either sinks or floors, which is why I need Empire Today. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, and they'll be with you every step of the way. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home, so you pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space, so you can see how it looks with your furniture and in your house. You get precise measurements taken and have all of your questions answered, so there are no surprises. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. You heard that right, a $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details.
Finally, let's talk about Bet365. Whatever the moment, it is never ordinary at Bet365. Guys, Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide, live streams 780,000 events each year, and they have early payout offers across the NBA and the NHL. And right now, they have the MLB early payout offer. This is my favorite thing that they do, which means that with the Bet365 early payout offer, you are a winner if your team goes 5 runs ahead. So, if the Phillies bullpen, if you're scared about them blowing a game, if they get up 5-0, you get the instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. You can download the app and use code PHLY365 whenever you sign up. And guys, there is an open account offer. Breaking news from Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Again, sign up and use the code PHLY365. Deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it is never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 and over and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers Show, brought to you by Rothman Orthopedics. All right, before we transition to the defense, while we're still sort of in the positive portion of this show, first of all, Brian Pumper, I know you've been quiet. I'm assuming you have bailed, but if you are listening and just being quiet behind the scenes, you might want to walk away for a minute because we are going to talk about VJ Edgecombe. Future is Bright, presented by Shady Rays. The Sixers drafted VJ with that third pick out of Baylor, and I think the way he played in Summer League was only 2 games. I get it. But just watching him play, watching how much more comfortable he was with the ball in his hands, watching him, quite frankly, push the issue, whereas at Baylor, it seemed like he was a little more prone to sort of fitting in. And I think just watching how he can utilize NBA space to his advantage, I think the future is bright for VJ Edgecombe. Strong take for the 3rd overall pick. I know he's a unsung person in this slot, but I really do think I was confident in him coming into the draft. He was 3rd or 4th on my list pretty much from the turn of 2025 onward. I think I'm more confident in him after this. And not only that, but just watching him work in Vegas too. That's the one thing we pointed out with Jared McCain last year, where his post-practice work ethic was so strong, and he was going through stuff that he quite frankly just wasn't comfortable with. And it's something you love seeing in young kids who you're hoping grow and will tackle things that they are embrace the uncomfortableness of stepping out of their comfort zone. And I think he's going to do that.
I think it's fair to say that the future is bright. It was nice to see a proof of concept for VJ where, the ability to get to his spot. What was the stat that you had from that first game where I think he made 5 jumpers off the dribble?
5 pull-up jumpers.
And he made 11 all season
that was exactly it.
at Baylor? And that was the hope. On draft night, I said something along those lines where, hey, college basketball, there's not a lot of space to operate. Sometimes you play with point guards who don't really give you the ball all that much. And if you have a team with poor spacing, it's hard to get to the rim. And it was nice to see, even if he does have some work to do in terms of skill development, the ability to get to his spot and rise up. I was super impressed by that. I was pretty impressed that he played the second game too, because clearly his hand was still bothering him. He didn't have any touch on his jumper after that long layoff. But yeah, it was certainly a good start. All of those jumpers that we talked about, the 5 off the dribble jumpers, they were 2s. If he wants to become a superstar in this league, he's gonna have to step back and make those 3s at some point. But it's a really nice base to build off of, for sure.
We have made the Jimmy Butler comparison a lot. We don't need to take the refusal to shoot threes. You don't need to take that Jimmy Butler comparison all the way. It's great that Jimmy has sort of like that pull-up jumper. It's great that Jimmy is able to get the line like he does. One thing VJ does need to work on. But you would like to see him embrace a three-point shot, maybe a tiny bit more than Jimmy has. I think off the catch he will.
Yeah.
Off the dribble is, I think, where the work needs to go.
That's going to be a few years down the line. Now, in fairness, if you are going to be an on-ball guy, defenses are clued into you. They're going to try and take away those threes. So sometimes the best shot is that mid-range jumper. So that is a good tool to have for sure. I'm not mad at VJ for taking those in that game. I was pretty impressed by it.
Once again, that is the Future is Bright, presented by our good friends over at Shady Rays. All right, defensively. Or I think you had something else you wanted to get to before you got the defense, the center position.
Centers.
Yes.
So let's say Joel is out for an extended period. How are you handling that?
No idea. Did you want more detail than that?
Well, I mean, we got 14 minutes left.
No, in terms of this year, there's no great answer for that. Like, I mean, I've said this on the last show. I'm okay if that's the end of my Andre Drummond watching experience. Unfortunately, you don't have all that many options behind him, right? Like Bona's who I would start if in the games when Joel Embiid's out. Janai, I guess you're playing a little bit as a backup center.
Well, so the one skill that he really showed in Summer League was the ability to make threes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at least he's giving you the 5-out element that we talked about.
And I do think, because like he shot like sub 30%, like 2 of his last 3 years, I think. But I think some of that came from like he was self-creating a little more of those threes than you would want. I think off the catch, this might be reading a little too much into Summer League. Off the catch, he looked comfortable.
Well, he's going to be a role player in the NBA too, where I feel like he had a very high usage in college. He was the second best player in college basketball. I do think, and you're right. I might be reading a little too much into Summer League. I do think when that is your specific role and it's, hey, I'm not going to have a lot of plays run for me. And man, when he had plays run for him in Summer League, it did not look good. It was a lot of half-hearted hook shots that I would never want to see in a real game. But if he knows his role is, my role is to set screens, catch and shoot, get into the dribble handoff game. He's another guy who I think maybe can get Maxey sprung with his passing and his playmaking from the perimeter. So, yeah, maybe him a little bit. Did you mention Drum?
Yeah, I did. I mentioned I didn't want to see him.
Unfortunately, they don't have a ton of options.
So do you think, like last year, because he was battling a bunch of injuries, do you think last year was him battling injuries or last year of like, he might be starting that rinse cycle?
I feel like he's had some down years in his career, but he's also an older player. And that second thing that you mentioned, that's the fear, right? Is that in Bill Simmons' terms, he's moving on to a new stage of his career, which means he's not as good as he used to be. I don't know. It was a disaster.
He's going to be. I think he's turning 32 pretty soon here.
It was a disaster. He remember the Spurs game when he got ejected.
Yeah,
and then came back.
Yeah, and kicked something, right?
Because the ref screwed up. Yeah, well, that's when he got hurt. When he kicked something, and he had the toe issue for a long time.
He was pretty bad before.
He was pretty bad before then too. The whole team was pretty bad, but he was bad. To answer your question, I don't know, but you might not have a choice. Does Watford have any small ball 5 in him? I mean, that's not going to work defensively.
Defensively, no.
I mean, could score some points at least.
He could, and he'd probably be a little better like attacking off there because like 5s just usually aren't accustomed to trying to defend a guy dribbling off of a screen. So he might have a little bit of, but I mean, defensively, I think it's going to be bad. Yeah. And he doesn't space the floor like Yabu did last year. Even though I think his percentages are pretty good, it's really low volume, and like he needs like a month and a half to get that shot up, I think. We'll see. No, I mean, look, and this is why, if we have optimism around this 3-guard trio, next year, unless you get Joel Embiid back to, I'm not even going to say MVP form Joel Embiid, but just back on the floor consistently and looking better than he did in January of last year, next year, like, I think expectations have to be kept in check because you just, like, there's work you need to do around that trio.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, defensively, how do they hold up?
Well, I have a statistic for you.
Okay, I like numbers.
Joel Embiid did not look very good defensively last year. I think we can all admit that. He looked slow.
Yep.
The rebounding was not great. As hobbled as Joel was last year, the Sixers were still 9.7 points per 100 possessions, better defensively. With
no,
him
Joel
on the floor.
Embiid looking like he can't move and laboring through every movement and just really disappointing is miles better than any other option they had last year, especially on defense.
They were better at everything, including the rebounding. And Joel's rebounding last year was driving me insane. It was average when he was in. It was decidedly not average when he was out of the game. Yeah, so that's the worry with these guys. When, I mean, the best defensive backcourt of the two of them is probably Grimes and Edgecombe together.
Yeah.
You're sacrificing a lot with the playmaking. You got to hope Quentin Grimes from Mickey Mouse March shows up and he starts drilling threes. But yeah, I mean, if you play three of those guys together, even if you have Quentin at the three, you don't have a lot of size on the perimeter. That's why I do think Paul George is huge, because he gives you passable defense and 3-point shooting. The ability to, and these are lower expectations from when the Sixers signed him, but the ability to not take stuff off the table with decent perimeter defense. And I thought his perimeter defense was actually quite, the off-ball defense was quite good for a lot of last year. The on-ball defense, not as good. But to also have 3-point shooting at the same time. No, I don't know how they're going to get stops, and that's going to be their biggest issue. It'll be nice with these young guys. You'll be able to inject an element of speed and athleticism, but you're not getting any bigger. And so the issue is, if you're taking the ball out of your basket every single time, you could still push the ball. I watch the Pacers play. Tyrese Halliburton is run the ball down your throat off makes, and they were doing that even before they were an NBA Finals caliber team. But it's harder. It's harder for sure. How do they get stops? How do they end the possession with rebounds? I don't know, and that's I think that's going to be the main reason why they would struggle without Joel. But it is what it is.
Even defensively, if they had a anchor at center, how concerned are you about? I mean, I guess specifically because do you think McCain can defend the point of attack? Let's say McCain was surrounded by VJ and Grimes, which is a little short as a three, but at least there you got two good defenders there who are relatively switchable and relatively versatile. Do you think McCain can defend the point of attack, or is he does the foot speed concern you? Does anything concern you there?
It does, but
if he's your weakest defender on the floor, can you have a good defense?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just in the modern pace and space era. I think it's going to be pretty rare to have a team like the Celtics where there's really no weak spot on the floor. Yeah, you can definitely have a good defense, but the other guys have to be pretty darn good, I think.
Well, so it really comes down to, the question mark comes down to that pairing, that Maxey and McCain pairing.
Well, I could also see McCain in time bulking up and becoming a guy who, like JJ Redick, like Steph Curry especially, because Steph Curry turned himself into, if not an average defender, right there.
Yeah.
And teams would pick on him all the time. I mean, I just remember those NBA Finals. LeBron and Kyrie would just hunt him mercilessly. Now, he struggled against them because that's about as elite as Hunt the Bozo offense or whatever you called it is, because those are two of, the best. LeBron, one of the best couple players of all time. Kyrie Irving, also just a dynamic offensive player. But Steph Curry, he bulked up. He worked harder at his defense. He locked in on the scouting report. I could see Jared in time turning into that player, but it's going to take a few years.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
So I guess answering sort of the question that we set out here for, can this be a championship core? I'm going to do something that I think we don't like doing in the media, because I feel like everyone wants to be strong with their opinions and be able to say that they were first to an opinion. I don't know. I would say probably not, right? Because you need one of them to take a leap into becoming a MVP caliber player. That leap is always on its own unlikely. But I think a lot of the MVP players, or at least let's say top 10, top 15 players right now, a lot of them, when they started their careers, you would have said well, I don't think there's a great chance they're going to become that. It's very rare that a LeBron James come in and you go that guy's definitely going to be a building block.
Wemby, done if he stays healthy.
even someone like Luka, I remember when Luka came in, people were like, oh, I don't know if he's going to be able to shoot. He's out of shape. He's not going to get to spots in the NBA. Like, and clearly there's a lot of intrigue in his talent, but
And now he's out of shape, but man, he can get to his
yeah,
spots in the NBA.
yeah. So I think there's always a little bit of uncertainty. And especially when you're talking about short guards, which the Sixers have kind of over-indexed on a tiny bit, there's always going to be an added level of uncertainty. So am I predicting like a Steph Curry leap for Jared McCain? No. And clearly you can draw parallels in their game and how they play, and you can see that McCain modeled his game after Steph without saying he's going to be Steph. You can see shades of Steph without calling him the next Steph. But there is, like, one of the great things about this sport, if it was predictable, well, first of all, everyone would make a little less money, because if everyone can predict it, then you don't really need GMs, so why pay them all that money? But also, it's the great thing about the sport is that it is so unpredictable, and you don't know who's going to make that jump. So I think you need a little bit of luck, a lot of hard work from players to see whether or not this can shake out. But I think where I'm at is all three of these players, not VJ, because you drafted him at 3, so he probably has literally the exact same value you had when you drafted him. But McCain and Maxey have so much more value now than they did when you drafted them. And look, clearly, if Joel Embiid is not able to get back to form, that contract is going to be an anchor. And it's going to be hard to dig yourself out. But the way you do that is by hitting, on a lot of these picks and getting guys like Tyrese Maxey, who might be worth 4 or 5 first-round picks right now. If you can develop them, even if the 3 of them cannot work together or be a foundation, or at least maybe you have 2/3 of a foundation, you need to go get that third piece. Because you have young players who have so much trade value and are on good contracts, and you still have draft picks to trade, I think there's more flexibility among this core, even with the anchors of Embiid and PG, than people sometimes give it credit for. And, especially with Paul George, like, you're going to play this year out and try to compete and see whether or not that's still realistic. If that doesn't work, Paul George only has 2 years left on his contract. I actually don't think that's quite as damaging as people make it out to be. It's really the Embiid extension. But hitting doubles, triples, home runs on these draft picks, like I said, even if they are not necessarily a core that's going to lead you to the title, even if you have to maybe keep 2 out of 3 and augment them with something, I do think there's more trade flexibility, which, again, trade flexibility, keyword, because with those George and Embiid contracts, you're not going to be a free agent destination anytime soon. I think there's more trade flexibility than people think. Yeah, I mean, especially if you bring back Grimes on a decent contract, long-term contract, that adds to the trade flexibility as well.
Daryl has quietly kept his powder dry, and has the Clippers, the pick and the swap as well. So 2 points, and I think this is probably a good way to close it before we get to our world famous roll call. Is that you want to root for these guys to have success. They might not fit together, but at least individually show some show some flashes individually, like show that you can maintain your value or even get a little bit better. And then also, like, let's see how you guys fit together. Maybe Edgecombe and Maxey is that's the backcourt of the future. And Jared is an awesome player, but maybe he doesn't fit here. Well, then you can make a move with him in the future. Or maybe Jared and Maxey do work together. And then, you have them and Edgecombe, and then you just trade Grimes. So anyway, root for all these guys to have success. I think there's a decent chance that they do. And that's the other element of this kind of weird Sixer season where you have Joel and PG. I think there might be the ability to push them to the side a little bit and say, okay, this is not 2016 all over again where the team has clean books and all of these assets and this crazy ability to make trades. But 60% of it, 70% of the team, there's Derek's mad. He's thinking about Brian Colangelo.
No. You 100% called that right. And even though we spent the last 2 days talking about that era a lot, I'm still annoyed just by you bringing up 2016.
But you might be able to push it to the side and focus on, like you said, a decent amount of draft picks, but also these 4 young players who are young and should get better, even if they kind of play the same positions.
All right, I think before we get to the world famous roll call, we just got to remind you, if you are watching on TV, head on over to allphly.com just so you can see the rest of the show. Any other thoughts wrapping this up here before we do the roll call?
By the way, the other thing I would say too, Jared McCain, I have no idea what he's going to be. If he is one of the better players in the NBA at some point, I can't rule that out because of how crazy his start was, just his ability to get those threes off. I just think that is such a valuable skill. I have no idea what we're going to have in him next year, but I am excited to find out a little bit more. That's all.
No damn idea. Sorry, I just needed to since we're in overtime.
Overtime. Swearing time.
No, and it really is like having some of those players who flash upside that you don't know. It's fun. It's always fun watching those guys develop, especially when you trust them, when you believe in them as people and as workers, and when he has such a unique skill set, like that ability to just get off a high volume of threes. Up until Maxey, the Sixers, JJ, but JJ's, more of a role player. They just haven't had very many high volume 3-point shooters and guys who could really hunt threes even when defense is keying in on them. And I think he can be that. I really do.
Yeah.
Going to be fun. All right, let's get to that roll call. I have to do it from my phone because I misjudged the battery level on my laptop. That is my bad. We'll start off with PHLY, Greeny Green, Rick Morse, D Flyers, Eugene Ross, Winona, as always, SB Cole, the Vic Fan, AA Ron, Smy Guy, Jesse, going by his real name.
Very good.
I'm getting there. You give me another couple weeks with this nonsense, YouTube bullshit.
Jesse with the dog.
Showdown Will, Antoine 92, Al Faded, Hedva showed up midway through. Good luck, Hedva, by the way. Martian Lynch, Marcus Blackstock. Let me scroll through. I think I said AA Ron, but I want to make sure I mention him as well. Did I mention PHLY? I think I mentioned PHLY.
You mentioned PHLY.
I think I started with him. Yeah. Rick Morse, I said. A lot of people arguing in the chat. Repeat. D Flyers. Pretty sure I said that. Either way, I think that is good. Thank you all for showing up as we get through this week without Kyle and Devon and Bree, as they all take their vacations at the exact same time. But it has been great hanging out with all of you guys. Once again, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you know when we go live. Hit the thumbs up button so you can give Rich a thanks for hopping on here on short notice. I think I probably asked you, maybe Friday of last week, maybe Thursday. I might have given you an extra day. Did not give him a ton of time, but he has been here all week. We will see you again on Friday.
And Kyle and Devon and Bree, you better be ready to work next week.
Take care.
We all silly like the mayor.